Visions of the East Side. Many of us who are involved in downtown Portland businesses don't have the opportunity and the sense of all of the different things that are happening in different areas of our community. Certainly, while we call it the City of Portland, very frequently I think we become attached to or focused on a particular area of the community and think that that's all that there is to a community. I was born on the east side of Portland and raised for part of my life on the east side, and it has a very strong attachment for me, even though I now work on the west side of Portland. I know that there are many exciting and interesting things that you are going to hear about today, and we have three very special speakers who I'm going to introduce at this time. First will be Mr. William C. Scott, Jr. He is president of the Pacific Development, Inc., and has been since 1987. Bill Scott has been a very active member of our community, as many of you know. He graduated from Princeton University and gained a law degree from Cornell University, joined a law firm first in Portland, and then became active with Neil Goldschmidt, then a little-known city commissioner from the city of Portland. He went on to a number of other roles before he became the chair of the Neil Goldschmidt for Governor Committee in 1986, and from there went on to become the president of Pacific Development. He, as all of our speakers, has been intimately involved in various activities in this community, including the Association for Portland Progress, the Emmanuel Medical Center Foundation, Janus Youth Programs, Inc., and the Private Industry Council of Portland and Multnomah County. Bill will kick off our program with a discussion of his visions of the long-term future of the city's east side. Speaking second will be Marilynne Eichinger. Marilynne is the president of the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry and has been since 1985. She too brings a diverse background to OMSI. She has been a teacher, a lecturer, an author, and has consulted for numerous science centers around the country. She gained a bachelor's degree in anthropology from Boston University and a master's degree in psychology from Michigan State. She serves on the President's Advisory Council at Portland State University, the Rotary Club Advisory Council, and the Northwest Regional Labs Advisory Board. Speaking third is Ronnie Herndon, who is director of the Albina Ministerial AllianceHead Start program. Ronnie is a graduate of Reed College and has had also a diverse and fascinating background, starting out as a VISTA volunteer and following that with becoming a teacher, a carpenter, a college instructor, and a counselor in various programs around the community. He has been with the Albina Ministerial AllianceHead Start program since 1975 and has some very penetrating views and has spoken several times to the City Club in the past. He is very active in community affairs as well and will bat cleanup. After all three speakers have spoken, as I mentioned at the beginning, we will have questions from the floor. Will you help me welcome now to kick off, speaking on Visions of the East Side, Mr. Bill Scott.
Thanks very much, Bill, and welcome to the East Side. For those who know, for those who remember, for those who do not, or for those who have no memory of Portland's beginnings, welcome to the East Side was originally a phrase that verified Portland's expansion, Portland's progress, to a new era and a new area of possibility. It was made possible physically by the streetcar lines, but brought about really by Portlanders, because they believed that the good life they had was worth expanding, because they believed in welcoming and including newcomers and guests to our city. So here we are, and aren't we glad? I'd like to say thank you to the City Club for this historic first City Club meeting on the East Side, I understand, and I certainly hope that it won't be the last. I don't have very much time since I've got to share the platform with other Eastside visionaries today. So I've got a lot of material in a short period, and I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you first for fear that you may miss it along the way. I'm going to make 3 points. The first point I plan to make is that the East Side, for the doubters, is not what they may think. It is instead a place of opportunity, a place of awareness and planning and progress, a partner place for Portland, not an outsider, and not a sorry substitute for what others might think is the center of Portland. My second point is that the East Side, like everywhere, has problems that we can't afford to ignore. And third, I want to do my duty and outline a vision for East Portland. It's a vision of community, inclusion, respect for diversity, trust, reconciliation, and hospitality. Okay, now for the first point. The East Side is opportunity. Most Portlanders, of course, live on the East Side, and they know perfectly well that this is a full participant, this part of the city, in the livability and the prosperity of the metropolitan area. Some West Siders have also visited the East Side, and they're also aware of its vitality and its charm. I'm sure that most City Club members are included in the groups I just spoke of. And you're here just to update your information about the new projects and investments that are widely expected to transform the East Side of Portland. But just in case someone has sneaked in or is listening on the radio who is suffering from the accepted wisdom about the East Side, I'd like to take a few minutes to set the record straight. You few may have been misled by persistent idle chatter and press reports into thinking that East Portland, and particularly North and Northeast Portland, is a hotbed of crime, illiteracy, and unemployment, populated mainly by society's dropouts, lacking skills, work habits, and educational ability. You may have had trouble understanding why more than $400 million is being invested in the Lloyd District alone, most of it by profit-motivated private businesses that must rely on the local retail market. Well, we surely have some problems, and we'll talk some more about those in a few minutes. But first, a few images and statistics may help you understand the profoundly positive economic fundamentals driving investments by Lloyd Center, Residence Inns, Fred Meyer, Pacific Development, and many others. First, East Portland developed mainly around the turn of the century in response to streetcar lines being extended to subdivisions laid out by the likes of Ben Holliday and William Killingsworth. The city responded with major investments in parks and public services, creating neighborhoods like these that are very similar to West Portland neighborhoods, such as Nob Hill and Portland Heights, that were being developed at the same time. By far the greatest quantity of large, high-quality, well-preserved old Portland houses are in neighborhoods not on the west side, but in places like Walnut Park, Irvington, Laurelhurst, Ladd's Addition, Sunnyside, and Buckman. They were followed by a major building boom in the 20s that created areas like Dolph Park, Eastmoreland, and Mount Tabor. Post-war building along the then eastern fringe of the city, and finally major restorations beginning in the 60s and 70s. Ralph Lloyd began to have a dramatic impact on the Near East Side commercial area, with a huge assembly of property beginning in the 20s and maturing with the opening of the Lloyd Center, the world's first modern-scale regional mall in 1960, followed by a series of major office structures. By the late 1960s, Portland was at a turning point, with many citizens concerned that our city would experience the devastating flight to the suburbs that was turning America's central cities into empty shells and inner-city residential neighborhoods into barely livable enclaves of the very young and very old on small incomes. These concerns helped elect Mayor Neil Goldschmidt and galvanize his administration into adopting a set of tactics that we informally referred to as the population strategy. Basically, the idea was that if close-in city neighborhoods weren't able to compete with the suburbs as good places to stay and raise a family, the city would lose the citizens most able and willing to make the private and public investments to preserve our future. As a result, the city, TriMet, and Portland Public Schools cooperated to invest in thousands of small neighborhood improvements: playgrounds, stop signs, traffic diverters, street closures, housing rehabilitation, transit expansion, fire and police equipment, and school improvements that in many ways are still unequaled in the country. Of course, this occurred alongside a boom in the private economy, which helped neighborhood businesses flourish, and a boom in federal spending that lasted for most of the 1970s. Even in the depressed 80s, construction on projects funded in the 70s continued, and thanks to the new school tax base of 1982, school reconstruction continues today. Well, the good news is that it worked. While most city school populations, like Seattle's, declined drastically, Portland's declined much less and is growing rapidly today. As far as basic demographics, I thought a helpful comparison might be with Lake Oswego. Lake Oswego is probably the most prestigious of Portland's larger suburbs and one of the highest income suburbs in the United States. Certainly a place where I would like to have a major development opportunity in the middle of it. It's a well-developed 10 square mile area with a large quantity of stable, educated, high-income households. I want to take a look today at a similar size area in Northeast Portland. I picked zip codes 97212, 13, 27, and 32 for this demographic data, just to match the size, geographic size of Lake Oswego closely. Just to test, I did some more research, and you could pick almost any 10 square mile area of the East Side and come up with almost identical data. Although the average income of the Northeast area is only about 60% of the average income of Lake Oswego, you can see that Northeast Portland has more affluent households. I guess not all of you can read that. Total households over $25,000 a year are almost 11,000 in Northeast Portland versus 6,000 in Lake Oswego. More high education households, 20,000 residents with some college education versus 10,000 in Lake Oswego. More people in prestigious occupations, almost 9,000 executives and professionals versus 5,000 in Lake Oswego. And finally, they both fall in the same high category of residential stability, and these figures all came from sort of national retail research organizations. I think it helps you explain why Melvin Simon Associates was willing to pay for the Lloyd Center and to spend between them and their major tenants, $100 million renovating the center, and why Fred Meyer is willing to persist through major opposition to gain access to this retail market. It's about as dense a population of desirable shoppers as exists in the United States outside Beverly Hills or the east side of Manhattan. More than anything else, all right. More than anything else, it's the prosperity of Eastside residents and businesses that have generated recent projects such as the Lloyd Cinemas, Holidays Market, a number of new restaurants on both Broadway and Hawthorne, the Carousel Courtyard, the new Emmanuel West Wing project, and coming projects that we expect to materialize in the next couple of years on the east side, including Emmanuel's Conference Center, the Lloyd Center renovation itself, the new Nordstrom store, out of order, Bill, the Marriott Residence Inn that'll go in east of the Lloyd Cinemas, the rehab of the Cosmopolitan Hotel that's underway now, the new Nordstrom store that's rising on the west end of the Lloyd Center currently. This is the Broadway retail building anchored by Kitchen Caboodle on 16th and Broadway. The new state office building, which was funded by the legislature on Monday. This is one you may not recognize. The Light Brigade is planning to light the steel bridge, and this is one of the more exotic ideas that's been floated for a laser light display. Of course, the Oregon Convention Center itself, which is really exciting to see that steel rising and the brick coming on the building. And then this series of sketches of the public improvements that have been committed for the area, more than $30 million, including at least $5 million private sector dollars for landscaping, paving, street lighting, new signage, improvements going all the way from the river overlook that I just showed to the convention center itself, and coming up Holiday Street to the Red Lion and the Lloyd Center. And this is an artist rendering PDC had done that sketches a physical vision for the convention center area for the year 2000. Politicians have, of course, long been aware that the Near East Side of Portland also provides the greatest concentration of positive votes for school funding measures and public improvements of all kinds. And it's the heart of the constituency for every local elected official with any real political durability. For example, Bud Clark's ability to gain and hold this constituency largely explains his success against Frank Ivancy and Ron Still. Some even remember the 1957 initiative that thwarted the city fathers' plans to site the Memorial Coliseum on the west side, requiring that it be located at an east side site. To conclude, my first point is that the east side of Portland is and always has been attractive and prosperous. Today it's affected by profoundly positive trends that are generating enormous private sector investments as well as public sector seed money investments in the area. That's the last slide, thank you. You have the lights up. I'll move on to my second point. My second point is I want to talk about our undeniable problems. It's hard enough to get the world generally to believe my first point, that the economic opportunity really is available in East Portland, because it's so unusual for an inner city location and it contradicts the accepted wisdom of many Portlanders. Sometimes I think that selling the message of opportunity by itself is enough for us to take on, and that we should count on the wave of business investment to take care of the nagging problems of poverty, crime, and underachievement that do persist, even in the midst of general prosperity. But in fact, we all know that the rising tide does not lift all boats, that there are too many in our community who lack the skills, the support, and the confidence to make full use of their God-given abilities. We know that America's prosperity in the 80s has increased the gap between the haves and the have-nots, and Portland's East Side is at best a partial exception. Communities that do not address this gap are undermining not only their quality of life, but their future prosperity. Luckily, our economic opportunity is so strong that it gives us a once-in-a-generation chance to put it in the service of achieving real equality of opportunity. We can't afford to blow it. The Lloyd Center area alone can be counted on to add thousands of jobs in the early 90s with the opening of the convention center, hotel rooms, etc., and creating many entrepreneurial opportunities to serve each of those. Add to this the tremendous growth of industrial and warehouse jobs in the Columbia Corridor. These opportunities are far more numerous than the unemployed and underemployed residents of the East Side. But those jobs and business opportunities will not go to neighborhood residents unless we take positive action to remove barriers of poor education, lack of child care, inadequate training, general discouragement, and racial prejudice that characterize many people's failure to be self-sufficient in our economy. Too many of our young citizens are so frustrated by their inability to join in the prosperity and community around them that they fall prey to crack cocaine or seek quick profit by selling to those who do, encouraged by the gang leaders who have moved into our community. Portland can no longer be smug. We have real, serious problems. Certain parts of the East Side have had more than their share of gang violence. Others have problems of home burglary or car theft and car break-ins. I'm personally, after my service on the school board, very proud and excited by the progress we've made in school achievement. Minority and disadvantaged children have made triple the average gains in the school district's dramatic reading and math score improvements since 1980. But we are still far, far from where we need to be. At least twice the percentage of white students as black are achieving at grade level in both math and reading. Unless we find a way to accelerate the gains we've made in closing that gap, Portland will never have a workforce that competes with those of Asian and European countries, no matter how well we compare to other large American cities. Finally, the East Side will miss its moment of opportunity if we don't use it, not to compete with, overtake, or put down the West Side, but instead to promote a unified, stronger city that defines itself as one community coming together on its river, each side working together for the success of the whole. We can't afford the excess community overhead of conflict, mistrust, and dependency. Every single citizen and every single neighborhood needs self-esteem and recognition. Every single one has to work in order for us to compete in the global economy of the Pacific century. We need to face our problems and our conflicts square in the face and solve them, not ignore them. Finally, let me give you what the City Club promised, a vision for the East Side. I've made a point that we're in good shape, and because we have new possibilities and we're defining them. I've been talking about East Portland's strengths. But I'd like to leave you with the much more important idea that all Portland and the metropolitan area and the state of Oregon have strengths, great strengths, of which East Portland as it always has been, is just a tightly linked part. We're together. We're not competitors. We're partners. Obviously, there are weaknesses and problems. We have to face those. I've said that East Portland is a great and growing marketplace, but a great district or a great city isn't just a marketplace. It's a community. Community is not an exclusive word. It dare not be. A community exists to nurture those who live there, to welcome those who will come, and to greet warmly those who visit. A community serves all those publics, and the operative word is all. Our mutual purpose is not just to create wealth. The state's new economic development strategic plan, which you all ought to read if you haven't, refers to a circle of prosperity in which quality communities are the foundation for the creation of economic wealth. Quality communities. Economic wealth, in turn, makes the circle work by making possible more and more widespread quality of life. The key word is again all. We cannot bypass. We cannot leave behind. We cannot make part of the community work unless all of it works. If we are to be that great new marketplace, then we must make certain that our weaknesses are dealt with and that our entire family can go with us toward the creation and the sharing of wealth. My vision for the East Side is focused especially on increasing our strengths and eliminating our weaknesses, not just as a marketplace, but as a community. The first rule in achieving this is inclusion. Opportunity and prosperity for every neighborhood and every individual on both sides of the river. Second, we must continue the efforts underway to reclaim the central city for its citizens night and day. Each of us must stand accountable for enforcing standards of civility and respect, refusing to let crime and filth take over. Third, the diversity and richness we seek in the urban fabric must permeate every part of our being. Celebrating, not merely tolerating diversity, should be our collective goal. We must treasure authenticity, protecting that which is uniquely Portland, lest we blend in with all the cities in the nation. We must meet the real needs of real people, recognizing that those needs are constantly evolving as people attempt to cope with a rapid-fire changing world. We need to build up on the East Side and in the city institutions of work, learning, and recreation that mirror the enduring quality of our people and create an environment that supports the integration of work and family life. We must build this community to be competitive in the world. I guess I'd like to close by referring to the three initiatives that the state strategic plan says that the whole state of Oregon must carry out. First, to become the world's best workforce. Second, to maintain and improve our quality environment. And then, oh so important, to make an absolute statewide commitment to the concepts of hospitality and global perspective. That's big stuff, important stuff. It certainly can't be achieved by constraining ourselves with East Side or West Side blinders. My boss, Don Frisbee, has been fond of going around saying that the world isn't shrinking. It's already shrunk. We need to act on that understanding now and every day. If we let the whole universe be the East Side or the West Side, we're missing the point. So you can see that my vision, my East Side vision, isn't an East Side vision at all. It's a vision for the city of Portland, the whole metropolitan area, and the state of Oregon. We share so much with the rest of our city and state that we need a goal for the East Side that positions us all squarely on the same side of the table. Just as our community must bridge differences between black and white, family and work, women and men, seniors and children, just so it can reinforce renew, and help establish long-lasting relationships and interaction between Oregon, the Pacific Northwest, and the world. Once introduced to Oregon, people inevitably form an uncommon attachment with Oregon and its citizens. Our need and our opportunity is to solidify that into a lifelong bond to the benefit of all. We are standing in Oregon at a great door. It isn't easy to rise above neighborhood and see world, but that's what we must do, and now. We're not just a doorway to the Pacific Rim, we're a gateway to a new understanding of what global thinking and performing really are. This is our great moment. We cannot grab for it successfully with random hands. We're going to have to jump toward this opportunity as the community that we are, with all hands on board. A marketplace, after all, has always been a concourse of versatile participation. We should remember that as our rallying cry for the challenge of the 21st century. Oregon needn't be just a center for the new global commerce and culture. We can be a leader in that common commerce and culture. And to move in that challenging direction, we're going to need our amalgamated strength. Yesterday's streetcar neighborhood is today's satellite world. The barriers are down and the gates are open. The horizons widen. So must our vision. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill, for that thoughtful universal vision. Now, adding OMSI's view to the vision of the East Side, will you help me welcome Marilynne Eichinger?
Thank you. When I heard you say these words, it reminded me of a statement by Anatole France. He once said that even a little dog is at the center of his own universe. And it's obvious that OMSI's move is going to be the center of this universe. We were incorporated in 1944, and our first home was in the Portland Hilton. From there, we moved to the East Side on Haslow Street. The building was eventually knocked down to make way for the new Lloyd Center. 30 years ago, we moved back to the West Side, into our present location in Washington Park. And due to the tremendous success that we're having there and the tremendous interest in education today, our board had to make the decision about a year and a half ago to move once more and to return to the East Bank, and this time in order to help unify the east and the west sides of the city and to help reinforce the appropriateness of a science and industry museum in a central East Side industrial area. After looking at many, many excellent sites, we decided to go to the location of our choice for a couple reasons. First, and you can imagine it's a very hard offer to turn down, we were given 18.5 acres of free land by PGE. Right on the waterfront. And what could be a better location for a science museum that takes children out onto the water and does a lot of water ecology and types of programs that deal with our own river? It's located near I-5 with a new exit and entrance ramp that's going to be constructed adjacent to our property. Location, location, location. We see the move as having a tremendous advantage to the city, to the state, and in fact to the whole Northwest region. Now, OMSI has a tradition of being an excellent educational institution. In our new facility, we're going to be able to do our job better. We can provide a better link to schools as well as to those adults who want to keep abreast of changing technology. We can become a showplace for Oregon's new and cutting-edge technology, so that OMSI can become a statement to our families and to all of our visitors that Oregon really is with it. Our role, however, as a tourist attraction is something new. On our 18.5-acre parcel, we're going to have an Omnimax theater, a museum, a planetarium, laser light shows, an auditorium, a restaurant. The facility is going to be operating 7 days a week, often until 2 o'clock in the morning. We're going to be the first institution in our state that will have a room large enough to hold internationally traveling exhibits such as King Tut and the China exhibit. The increase in size to a 200,000 square foot facility means that visitors can stay 4 to 5 hours and enjoy themselves. Now that number is a magical number because it means that people will in fact come from a great distance to visit us. We can advertise in Seattle and Northern California. Convention goers might bring their spouses or stay an extra day in order to see the museum. Hotels, restaurants, gift shops, all will benefit, to say nothing of the fledgling water taxi service that you know has just received a license this year and we hope will prosper. TriMet's talk of a bus link to the 4 corners of the downtown area, linking the Lloyd Center to OMSI, to River Place, to the Union Station, will provide a mechanism for moving people around this very exciting city that we're living in. Portland is no longer a small town, but it's a growing and bustling metropolis. From Terminal 1 to John's Landing on the west side, and looking into the future, what I believe will be from Alberta Street to Oaks Park on the east side, we're seeing a tremendous infusion of development and possibility. In the direct OMSI vicinity, land adjacent to the north might someday house another tourist attraction, such as a maritime museum. On PGE's property to the south, an office building or a hotel could be conceived, and I'm pushing for the hotel. We'd like to encourage a daycare center for our own employees. Artists are already moving into many area warehouses that might eventually feed into galleries and craft shops, such for an outlet for their work. Restaurants and support business for OMSI are also likely to be located in our nearby area. Now, Portland is an arts community. If you look around you, you'll find internationally successful architects, artists, advertising companies, exhibit producers, designers, musicians, and filmmakers. OMSI is tied into these businesses, and as we become more nationally known through our traveling exhibit program, we can continue to stimulate their growth. When OMSI has an exhibit on the road, we're starting to get requests for duplicates of the display. These contracts provide cabinet makers and artists with work. An additional thought: as our city expands to the north and south, I'd like you to consider some of the park-like areas between OMSI and the Oaks Park area for development. It appears that on the west side, River Place to John's Landing is developing very nicely. On the east side, there is a chance for recreation areas to be incorporated into a very lovely riverfront. I'd like to show you a few slides now and point out exactly where we're going to be and have you think, can you move on, or should I move on? It's not my slide here. Here we go. You can see that the Lloyd Center property, the convention center area, is the red dot to the north of this slide, and near the Markham Bridge, on the lower edge, you'll find the new location for OMSI. Our facility starts in the crescent of the Markham Bridge and moves south. I'm asking you to look at the north part of the slide and notice how green it is, and think about the opportunities for recreation also in that area. This is the view of the city from our site. Can you imagine a more beautiful location and a more beautiful statement of what our city is about? This is the present site, not too lovely. And it's a wonderful opportunity for us to take an area that is not very appealing and turn it into something magnificent. And so here we are with a building from the west side looking east, nestled so nicely into the riverbank, a beautiful tribute to the work of Zimmer Gonzal Frasca. The entrance of the museum, and you can see the dome of the OmniMax Theater and a glass pyramid-shaped building that will let us see the river as we enter the site. So with these few pictures and images, I leave you with not a dream, but something that's actually happening. Portland is great and getting better every day. And as we work together to recognize that exciting cities need to spread out with focus areas to stimulate growth and transportation networks to connect them, we realize that we are developing the kind of city that all of us will want to work in, to live in, and to play in for years and years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilynne, for sharing OMSI's vision. Now sharing the local neighborhood vision of who is going to develop and who is going to benefit, would you help me welcome Mr. Ronnie Herndon?
Thank you very much. I think in listening to Marilynne's comments and obviously very positively responding to Bill's vision, all of us, I am sure, want to see the East Side as well as all of Portland develop into a neighborhood, a community, a city that is very, very much more inclusive than it is now. I'm very positive that's all of our collective visions. My feeling is that that vision can be translated into our wildest palatial dreams, or that vision can be diminished into our most horrific nightmare. I don't think this is very, very complicated. Either we begin to take the very concrete and aggressive steps that ensure that all of our population will be able to get an excellent education, all of our population will be able to acquire gainful employment, all of our population will be able to access excellent health care. To the degree that we continue to tolerate large numbers of individuals, families, and neighborhoods in Portland not having access to those institutions, it's to that same degree that we will quicken the pace towards the nightmare. I don't have much time, but I want to share with you some figures that I think illustrate why now East Side of Portland, at least the part that I live in, is gripped in the kind of fear in some neighborhoods and terror that I would not wish on anyone. I was looking at one of the slides that Bill showed earlier of Peninsula Park. That was a beautiful rose garden that you saw. Last year, I won't mention him, a friend of mine who served in Vietnam, he has a very nice executive position with a well-known firm. His son was playing Little League over there last summer. In the middle of the Little League game, two contending factions in this little gang warfare decided to have a shootout. And his comment was that he thought he was back in Vietnam. He had to run out on the baseball field and grab his son. What I'm going to share with you now is why I think we are there. Do I think it is impossible? No. Do I think it can change? Yes. Do I think we can all walk down the road towards this vision? Yes, I can. but it really will depend upon each one of us in this room. The solution is not going to come from Salem. It's not going to come from Washington, D.C. If there is a solution, it will come from each person in this room committing themselves to make sure that this vision is transferred into a reality that is inclusive of all of us. Figures just came out today, the unemployment figures for this country. Black unemployment rate in this country, as of today, 3 times as high as it is for white people in this country. 3 times as high, that's today, July or whatever it is, 1989. One of the figures that I find most frightening when people begin to talk about wanting to have the necessity of having mentors and good black role models for young black people. These are census figures. And when you begin to talk about what happens when a community is cut off from job opportunity, let me show you. When you take a look at the so-called black middle class, how big, how little is it? 1970, there were 463 households in the black communities that comprise this massive black middle class. Guess what? 1980, there were 182. From 463 in 1970 to 182 in 1980, and then people say, where are the role models? Why can't we find them to serve on boards, right? Everybody, I look at old Carl, he's worked half to death. Everybody and his mother wants him to serve on somebody else's board. There's not enough of us to go around. Where are the mentors? Where are the fathers? Where are the neighbors? If they cannot get a decent job, they cannot become mentors, good fathers, and good neighbors. And see, that's not something that will be resolved in Washington, D.C. It won't be resolved in Salem, but it will be resolved in the firms that everybody here works in. You just look around and look at the complexion of the workforce where you are. Therein lies the story. When you begin to look at birth rates, and births to unwed mothers. 1987, you think it's sitting on a time bomb, listen to this one. 59% of all children born to black women in Oregon were born to unwed mothers. So I'm not talking about Chicago. I'm not talking about East Harlem. I'm not talking about East LA. Oregon, most of these in Portland, 59% of all births to black women were to unwed mothers. And then folks say, well, where are those fathers, those irresponsible fathers? Where are they going to be if they can't get work? They're going to be gone. No money in the pocket does not lead one to want to be a most responsible father. The Huxtables to the contrary. Last one, education. I think most of us have always felt, and most certainly all immigrants to this country, that as long as the doors of education are open and they're working, then we have a chance. It might take one generation, it may take 2, but we have an opportunity to be a part of the American mainstream. Education here in Portland, and again, I'm not talking about some other city. Currently, when you begin to look at remedial reading, 27% of all black children are in remedial reading, 8% of all white children. Math, remedial math, 23% of all black children are in remedial math, 5% of white children. Suspensions, black males, 12%, white males, 5%. And now we talk about these high standards that we have for graduation. You know you have to be able to read, do math, at least at the 8th grade level to graduate from high school, right? This is how we're going to compete with the Japanese, right? Okay. This global economy that we're going to forge ahead in, right? 1987, 73 black high school seniors, in 1987, 11 black high school seniors failed the 8th grade level high school graduation test. 1988, 73. Let me do it again. We're talking about our progressive school system. In 1987, 11 black seniors failed that 8th grade test that you have to pass to graduate. In 1988, 73. Okay. Lastly, gentleman who works for Adult and Family Services talks about individuals who come in, they have to fill out applications for work. He said the ones that have a high school education that pass that test, 70% can't fill out a simple application form. And I know for those of you who are in the business of hiring people, this is not new news. In conclusion, let me say this. None of these problems are insurmountable. None of them. There are some very simple things that can be done to teach all children to read, write, and do math. Number one, believe that they can do it. There's no reason why the development that has been laid before you cannot be the kind of development that would be a model for this country. There's absolutely no reason. There's no reason why we can't take neighborhoods where now people are frightened for their children to play in a park, or elderly people do not dare walk to the store. There's no reason why we cannot clean that up. We can do it. The only possible conclusion that history will be left to draw if we don't do it, it's because we said we didn't want to. I would hate to think that in Oregon, in Portland, that in the decades to come, that future generations will say that these people didn't care. I would much rather believe that the generations to come will look at what we leave behind, look at our legacy of riches to human beings of all caste, class, color, hue, and religions and say, these people did it right. This is the model the rest of the country is following, and that's why we have an America that all of us can be proud of. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Ronnie, for those very thoughtful remarks. I'm going to pick on the speakers right now because you have been a very faithful and attentive audience. For those of you that would like to stay till 1:30, I'm going to ask our speakers if they would be willing to answer questions until 1:30. We have to adjourn insofar as our radio and television audience is at 1:15, but if there are more questions that go on after that, we'll go on till 1:30 if that is all right with our three speakers. The opportunity to asking questions is open to anyone. We have a mic here in the center of the room, and on your table is a form. If you prefer to write a written question, please wave it in the air so that the City Club staff may pick it up and bring it forward to us. The privilege of asking the first question is given to Don Barney, our board host. Don?
Thank you, Bill. My question's directed to Bill Scott. Bill, in your beginning of your remarks, you addressed the idea of misinformation about the Eastside and the problems with the conventional wisdom, and you countered with your soon-to-be famous Lake Oswego defense. As you know, in the Central City Plan, the vision is for a downtown, and I'm talking on the business side of things here, for a downtown that would pull in this side of the river, including the Lloyd Center and the Central East Side area. And yet, I think it's fair to say that biases and prejudices continue to be felt and heard about that ever being a reality as downtown on both sides of the river. What are the biases or the put-downs that you find most difficult to deal with in terms of the vision of downtown on both sides of the river in the future, and what are your response to those biases?
I guess
Time for a yes or no answer.
2 points. One is that, like all biases, it's based on ignorance, and that the reason that people sort of don't want to include the East Side in their visions of the Central City, I think, is because they don't understand how strong a contributor to the Central City it can be, and our task is to get that information out. I think the other problem we have is that people see the East Side's growth as a business district somehow threatening the growth of the rest of downtown. I think there's no question that every part of the Central City will make the overall city stronger, and I think people will begin to see that, and we'll just have to wait for time to sink that understanding home.
Either one of you want to jump in?
I'd like to contribute to that. Our city is bounded by some hills on the west side, And if we didn't have the river there, it would have expanded to both sides and it would have expanded out anyway. We need to grow, we need more land, and it's just an obvious thing that we would have to grow on the east side in order to make a whole city. I'd also like to compare our city to another beautiful city in the northern hemisphere, that of Toronto. I thought the developers in that city were very clever. They put cultural organizations in many different places in the city. The zoo is in one location, or museums are in another location. They have riverfront development, they have shopping in other areas, and they've networked them very nicely with transportation. By doing that, they were able to see the development of a whole city that's a healthy city in many different areas.
Yes, sir.
Jim Nelson, member. Question would be directed to Mr. Scott. What is your vision, if any, for the survival of the Hollywood district?
Well, the part of my resume they didn't give you is that I graduated from Grant High School and spent half my youth in the Hollywood theater, and my dad practiced medicine at the Broadway Medical Clinic for about 45 years, and I believe that the Hollywood district benefits directly from all the demographics that I talked about. And my vision for the Hollywood district would be that it would continue to grow and thrive as a neighborhood business district indefinitely.